Hi, I'm Bishop James Conley. As you know, Nebraskans will vote this November on whether or not to abolish the death penalty. I'd like for you to listen to a very important message by Tom Venzor.
My name is Tom Venzor. I'm the Associate Director for Pro-Life and Family for the Nebraska Catholic Conference. The Nebraska Catholic Conference represents the public policy interests of the Catholic bishops of Nebraska. We work on a variety of issues at the state capitol during the legislative session, including the work we did in 2015 on LB 268 to help abolish the death penalty in Nebraska. Today, I want to briefly talk to you about 4 reasons why you should vote to retain the repeal of the death penalty. First, reinstating the death penalty would risk innocent lives. Take, for example, the story of Kirk Bloodsworth. Kirk spent nearly 9 years on death row in Maryland after he was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to death for the rape and murder of Don Hamilton. Fortunately for Kirk, subsequent DNA testing proved his innocence. But Kirk's story is not unique, and he certainly is not alone. Across the United States, more than 150 people sentenced to death have been released from death row because they were acquitted, dismissed by prosecution, or pardoned based on evidence of innocence. Second, reinstating the death penalty would be cruel to victims' families. The process of enduring years and years of appeals after appeals and the never-ending media attention force families of murder victims to undergo the painful trauma of their loved one's brutal death. The death penalty process keeps deep wounds open. Consider the experience of Bud Welch. Bud's daughter Julie was killed in the Oklahoma City bombing after she had attended daily morning mass. Bud had this to say, "My conviction is simple. More violence is not what Julie would have wanted. More violence will not bring Julie back. More violence only makes our society more violent." Or, as Miriam Thim Kelly, whose brother Jim was murdered by former death row inmate in Nebraska, Michael Ryan, has lamented, "When Michael Ryan was sentenced to death, we were sentenced too. For 25 years, it has been all about Michael Ryan. He is all my family and I ever hear about. Jim is never mentioned. Every appeal, on, reading the horrible details again in the news year after year." Here in Nebraska, historically, it has taken almost 16 years from the time of an original death sentence to execution, which is nearly triple the length of time for a life sentence process. The families of victims deserve better, definitive closure. Reinstating the death penalty would fail victims' families. Third, reinstating the death penalty would reintroduce high costs in the waste of taxpayer dollars. It is well established that pursuing the death penalty results in considerably greater costs than life imprisonment. The Nonpartisan Death Penalty Information Center concluded in 2013 that Nebraska had spent $100 million on death penalty cases since 1976. By retaining the repeal of the death penalty, Nebraska will have a cost savings to reinvest in resources for victims' families and in programs that improve and enhance our public safety, including better wages and safer working conditions for corrections staff. Finally, by retaining the repeal of the death penalty, Nebraska will have a more humane alternative, which is life in prison without parole. Nebraska will retain the ability to remove guilty and heinous criminals off the streets and incarcerate them in maximum security prisons for life. We can be certain that justice will continue to be served and the public safety will be secured. As a matter of public policy, deeply informed by our faith, it is clear that in Nebraska the death penalty is not an absolute necessity, as the Catechism of the Catholic Church requires. As Nebraskans, especially Catholic Nebraskans, we have an important responsibility ahead of us this November. By retaining the repeal of the death penalty, we can not only ensure that justice is served, but that mercy retains its place in our society. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to this important message from the Nebraska Catholic Conference about building a culture of life. May God bless you.